Oh yeah. Eventually it'll all work Where did you go? Whole Hollow. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. The next week. Over the course of like 3 days, we ate it. Trying to figure out where you guess you better change it back.
No, none of them are.
None of them are here.
One's working.
You know, so anyway, they changed the play. Like she says, apparently when they changed the so she didn't know that before.
Relax. Yep. You should. No. I can see him in the screen. Did you actually move to that seat? I'm sorry. There's a little bit of your hair in the way.
You should have seen me in the 80s. I would have been a problem in this dude. Yeah. I can't even imagine. You were like, no, the bangs. So
Yeah, it was really just the bangs.
And the wings. Yes.
Oh, sorry, Bob. Yeah.
Somebody tell me when I'm on the right, because I can't. It's not duplicating.
Oh.
This is on wheels. Bob, think about computer
You
programming.
gotta-
So we'll be teaching
Oh.
or.
Technology level?
Hey,
No.
don't be down on flip phone.
Rick replaced his phone and gave Bob the old one, so he now has Samsung. Rick replaced the old one as soon as the new model comes out. So.
All right, we're about to get started here. Today our topic is information systems and software development, and Bob and Alyssa will be our hosts.
That's what we can give us all of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one we're going to talk about is software development, and there is an associate and a bachelor's program for the software development program. The bachelor's is really an extension of what students already accomplish in the associates. The associates we found works well because it's a milestone for a lot of students. It gives them a sense of accomplishment approximately halfway through the program. The vast majority, I think, go on to bachelor's.
It depends on the student, but we do encourage it.
Yeah. So I thought I would run through the program competencies to give you an idea of what we expect of students who graduate from the program. Employ fundamental computer theory in the context of software development practices. Manipulate data efficiently to make optimal use of computing resources. Apply principles of human-computer interaction in the design of computer interfaces. Identify and analyze user needs and take them into account in the selection, creation, and evaluation of computer-based systems. Effectively use project management tools and techniques to complete tasks on time and on budget. So those are the competencies that fall under the associate program. Any questions on any of those? Okay.
Oh, I have a question. Do they take project management
Yes.
so that it helps them do that class?
Yes. Project management is really it's an important element of software development.
Hey Bob, when you take questions, could you kind of paraphrase them a little bit just so we can make sure we get it on?
Okay, repeat the question?
Yes.
Thank you. And these are the additional competencies covered in the bachelor's program. Structure, plan, and control the process of developing an information system using accepted software development processes. Effectively utilize database and database management systems to organize, store, and retrieve data for use by application software. Write application software that makes efficient and secure use of operating system services. Design mobile applications that take into consideration unique aspects of mobile devices, including variations in hardware and software architectures, input-output operations, and external services. Produce user applications using a specialized technology that builds upon fundamental software development practices. Questions, observations, and none? Yes?
Is the AS more about, feels like this is more about sort of applying and doing, and the
Yes.
other one is planning and sort of understanding?
The AS covers fundamental concepts, and the BS goes further with those into core technologies as well as applied. And as you'll see, there are courses where they build entire applications, team-based projects. Any others? Oh, I didn't repeat the question.
I think we are.
Okay, so, oops. Using that as context, I thought I would talk about the courses, and you'll see the AS is next to the associate courses. which are also taken by the bachelor students. So the first course, CMIT 130, as a foundation course, covers network topology. Network topology is the way that you connect networks to routers and to systems. There are different configurations or shapes, I suppose you could say, that can be used in connecting devices, both in wide area networks, connecting buildings or regions, or even within buildings or within a room itself. So that's part of the course. The other part of the course covers TCP/IP, which is a protocol, a network protocol that's commonly used. I'm not sure you're interested in that. Yeah. Basically, and I think people don't realize this, but the way the internet and all networks operate is not through a connection. You're never connected to anything. What happens is data is, I think of it as scattered to the wind in packets. And these packets are really just a series of electronic impulses that hold a certain amount of data. And the data is organized according to the TCP/IP protocol. TCP is the transport protocol, which defines how this packet gets to its destination. And the IP is Internet Protocol, which provides the data aspect of it. And security, there's a bunch of other things. So there are these layers, which are just regions or sections of amounts of data that define that region. If there's not enough space in that, they'll send another packet. So these packets are scattered to the wind. They're not going together. Some of them may go by way of Russia to get to your office. And they find their way by bouncing off routers all over the world, but at the speed of light. And so when they are reassembled in your computer, you see the images that you see. So the protocol that allows this to happen is critical. And the TCP/IP is such an important protocol and important aspect of everything we do on networks that it never changes, because it would be way too difficult to change it, because we would have to redo all of this infrastructure that's in place. So that affects all other technology programs as well. And the system is now kludged together to make it work, because the protocol has really outgrown its the uses have outgrown the protocol's capability. Moving along, CMIT 135 is Introduction to Computer Theory. And so this course covers about a third of it, covers machine language, binary, hexadecimal, octal, which is, the computer is really a stupid adding machine. All it can do is add, and I can prove it to you. It does everything it does either through codes or by addition. All mathematical operations are performed through addition, subtraction, division. So it's a series of switches, on-off switches. In order to really understand what's under the hood, and all technology students need to know this, they need to do some of it and do it by hand to get a feel for what it's like. The second part of the course, the major part of the course now, is an introduction to Python programming. And Python is, I think of it as a Swiss Army knife language. It's used for all kinds of things. It's very user-friendly and a quick development tool. So it's an introduction to program, object-oriented programming.
That's the first course I always put students in when I welcome them to this program, because Python programming really determines whether the student can be successful in this program or not. And I think Bob would agree on that. If a student super struggles with Python, they will have a problem in all programming languages.
Programming, I think everyone has a capability of doing programming. It's whether you have the tolerance for it or not, because it can be very frustrating. and it requires a level of persistence and logic and thinking differently than most of us are used to. And the software development program, you better be pretty good at that, to be honest with you, because that's what the whole program is about. CMIT 200 is an introduction to relational database, and so this course covers two elements. One is database theory, and that is how to create a database schema, or how the tables and the information is going to be organized in order for it to be normalized. In other words, reduce redundancy, so you're not copying the same data in many different tables. And for efficiency, so that data can be fetched as quickly as possible. And the second part of it is structured query language, which is the commonly used language to do what we call CRUD tasks, C-R-U-D, create a database or create a table, read data from the database, update data, change or modify the data, and delete data from the database. It's important for students to know a lot of database applications allow you to use drag and drop or GUI interfaces. Access is a good example. And it will create the SQL under the hood behind it. But software development students, because they're going to be connecting like web applications, etc., directly to databases, they need to be able to create the queries and write programs that will modify the queries based upon what the user is looking for. Is this too much? Am I boring? I told people to bring their pillows so they could sleep. The Foundations of Cybersecurity, the next course, is an overview of security issues. It's a good foundation for all tech students. It covers everything from physical security, locking down and card access and all of that kind of stuff, to a brief introduction to encryption and access control. Cloud computing security. So everything's moving to the cloud these days, so students need to understand the nuances of cloud computing. In this course, they'll get their own Amazon cloud instance, and they will learn how to publish simple web pages or move things back and forth, and learn about how to secure their instance. Financial systems for management, you saw in one of the competencies that, particularly, I think it was the one related to project management, to deliver projects on time and on budget. Well, the budget part of it is something that software developers need to be aware of. They might like to do, really fancy pie in the sky stuff, but if the budget doesn't allow it, then they need to work within those constraints and understand the financial implications. We don't talk about discrete math.
Feels like the first rule of Fight Club.
Discrete math is really the math of computation, as well as some important mathematical constructs that apply to computer programming. Primarily, this process of recursion. Recursion is an elegant way to allow a program to loop, to execute in a rapid manner with writing just a very few lines of code. So many sort algorithms and search algorithms rely on recursion, because if you didn't, the programs would be 10 times longer. And there are some drawbacks of using recursion. But one way to think of that is, well, okay, I'll skip that. The math computation aspect of it is a way for students to understand, instead of at a very low level, understand logic structures at a more aggregated level, and using math notation. So there's lots of weird symbols and stuff in it. It's a great class. You should take it sometime. Project management is really an important skill for technology students because they have to work within a project framework. There are teams working simultaneously, and there's a budget, and they're working with designers, with marketing folks, with analysts. All of those people are working on a team basis. So, in fact, most software companies require people to either get a project management certification, or they all have to take project management and understand the process.
Can I ask a question about this?
Sure.
How many, or in any of these courses, are people doing things that they would later be doing in their job, or is this just all truly foundational things?
In one way or another, they'll be doing all of it in their jobs. So everything is connected to the internet these days. So an understanding of network nuances is important. This is a foundation course. They may actually be writing in Python applications, but Python is a great introduction to syntax and to the structures of programming without getting bogged down into a compile sequence and a much lengthier. So it's a good jump start to basic programming concepts. Relational database, again, everything's connected to a database these days, whether you know it or not. Almost every app on your cell phone is connected to a database in one way or another. We don't see it often, but we take advantage of it. They have to know how to connect anything they're working with to a database. This is self-explanatory.
Right.
And again, self-explanatory. Everything's going to the cloud. They need to know how to program and to put applications in the cloud and to manage them.
And will they be doing that in that course?
Yes.
As opposed to studying the...
They have, they get a student account, an AWS student account, and where they, as a sandbox.
Okay.
And this one, it covers financial statements, so they know what expenses and revenues and et cetera are. When it comes time to talk about the budget, they are informed at least to some degree. Discrete math is a theory course, but it informs a course that we're going to get to in a minute. It's a prerequisite for data structures and algorithms. And project management.
Yeah.
They have the option to take 260 or 262 for project management.
Oh yeah, I didn't. One is with MS Project and one isn't. Is that correct?
Yes.
They take 262 if they want to do the certificate.
Okay. So the core technologies are where they learn programming, basically, and related technologies. So you might wonder why they learn HTML. These days, the GUI, the interface that you see in almost all applications is now based on HTML, HTML5. Whether you know it or not, even like, I don't know, data tell, and it's all going to that type of interface.
So Bob, the courses that do not have AS are strictly B.
Right,
BS.
actually.
Yeah.
Enterprise database systems, this is a continuation of the database class that I was talking about before, and it's a more high level. So we're talking about large database systems, enterprise level database systems. Let's see, well, DataTel is one here. There are systems that cut across departments or divisions or sections of the organization and must interface with other aspects of the organization. organization. A lot of times these application program interfaces need programming, and so they need to understand how to integrate those systems. These are the two core courses to get them started in programming beyond CNET 135. C++ is used to write operating systems and any software that requires high performance. And it's a bear. But the first course covers basic syntax, an introduction. By syntax, I mean how you write in logic structures. They're all the same in pretty much every language. And then they get into a bit of object-oriented programming, and they learn the programming cycle. Write code, debug, compile, debug, write code. And it's a more lengthy process with a compiled language, which means that you end up with an exe file. If you're on Windows, or what is it on the Mac? You don't even see them on the Mac. But they're there. And the second course, 340, they pick up where they left off, and they get into more advanced data management structures. So they make use of pointers, which allow you to go directly to an address in memory and to actually manipulate the data at a lower level. They also get into a much greater degree of object-oriented programming. So what is object? Oh, you can ask questions. Oh, yes. Okay. Never mind. Data structures and algorithms. That discrete math is a prerequisite for this course. And data structures and algorithms is where students make use of those pointers in particular in order to organize data in memory using different approaches. For example, a very common one is called a stack. And if you think of a stack of dishes in the cafeteria, it's last in, first out, right? The plates go on the top. So that's, in this case, a record goes into a stack and the one on top pops, so it's push and pop, right, to fetch data. There are trees. A binary tree is a very common way to structure data. Well, here's an application. If you use Excel and you create an Excel formula, how does the computer parse that formula and do the computation? Well, it has to take every symbol and word in that formula and break it apart and then follow the correct order of operations, multiplication, addition, first, well, never mind. So that's an example of a tree. Operating system architecture exposes students to the services that are available in an operating system that they can hook their programs into. Linux Unix programming is bash scripting, and so that is a scripting language used in Linux in order to basically automate processes, as well as many other things, but that's a common use of it. Web usability and design is one that you can relate to better, and that's informing students about the user experience and how to create an information architecture that is intuitive and that that users can easily follow. Analysis and design is where students work with a user to ascertain their needs and ultimately to develop a technology solution for whatever the problem is. It's not a programming class. It's an investigation, if you want to think of it that way. And applied software practice is the capstone. And this is where they work in teams. And they work with a company or an organization locally and go through the analysis and design process and write a program. And it's a 15-week class, and they spend every bit of that 15 weeks doing that project.
So on the note of 15-week classes, 15 week, all of these are 15 weeks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Also, discrete math is a 15-week class, and then it's a sequence. You have to take them in order. So that's one of the challenges with the program.
We have tried offering a lot of these classes as 7 weeks, and it's just too much. It just can't be done.
We have added the language that it's 15 weeks to the website on the curriculum. When it lists the curriculum in the courses, it will say after it 15 weeks. There's no way for us right now to list 15 weeks on the program evaluation in WebAdvisor, which is where we direct students to go view once they're accepted. So I really try to hone in that as a 15-week sequence so they have the clear expectation of time with this program. A lot of our adult students want it done really quickly. Software development is not for you if that is a student's priority. Unless they want to test out, then this works. Oh, and Tony. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see intro to operating systems.
Nope, they don't take it.
Don't take it. So when they get to
We expect them to know the basics of the desktop operating systems when they come in. If they don't, they don't.
Alyssa, do you have a lot of people who drop out?
Um,
That get overwhelmed by it and switch to something?
I haven't kept track of that data, so I'm not quite sure how to answer that. The main challenge I have is the length of time to complete this program. And then when that happens, I shift my conversation to creating milestones. So introducing the AC program, AS program. If they can complete that, it's one thing on their resume that they can show their employers or start looking for jobs. They can also add on the C++ programming certificate. All of the courses are in the ASNBS program, so that's another milestone they can reach, and that it's really a retention effort to have those milestones. And it is a really tough program.
It's the nature of the material. And the last part of the curriculum is they have 12 credits for technical electives, and they can use those technical electives to take a deep dive into a technology that they want to have as a specialty. And there is overlap, so they don't have, like Alyssa was saying, C++ 1 and 2 they already take. So C# is Microsoft's version of Java. That's a good way to think of it. And Java is a more platform independent. C# only operates on Microsoft systems. They can specialize in PHP, which is a web backend or middleware programming language, or in web programming, which includes both backend and front end, so there's JavaScript programming as well as advanced JavaScript. And this course covers responsive design, which allows the same web page to be viewed in different size screens, so in mobile devices or on big screens.
Kathy. Hi. So it seems that the associates provides a really in-depth foundation, and I'm just wondering, in terms of employability, do you hear a lot of feedback? Because, I mean, there's a lot in there. So I'm just wondering, we have a lot of students who are really satisfied with getting that AS and then will either decide to continue or come back, but are having a lot of success with employment options because of it.
So the question is, are students employable after the AS in a nutshell? Well, I certainly would hope so, and I believe that they are. We'd have to talk to Heidi, I think, more. But, these folks, in terms of employability, are way up there on the top of the, Department of Labor statistics. There's such a shortage of people in software engineering, software development, computer science, that many of them are, well, I'm stealing the next slide, but many of them are already working. Oops. Maybe we were on that slide. Yeah. I believe many of them are working in the field, but you know better because you talk to them.
It's kind of split down the middle. A lot of students come in already in the field and just need that piece of paper, or they're complete career changers. Does it make them marketable, I guess, is the question. I would say yes, it's a really tough program. Again, I haven't been tracking that to have the data to give a full answer to your question. But in our world, in conversation I have with students, is that technology in programming is always going to be needed, so it does make them marketable. And then I try to hone in on where they hope to go, or if they're already working, what does their company use, so we can try to fulfill their technical electives towards what would definitely benefit them more. Because C++ programming is part of the main degree's major requirements. Not all companies use that programming languages. So then the conversation can shift to that bachelor's degree and how to focus on the programming language their company uses or a position they are working towards use, and then we can talk about Java, we can talk about Visual C# and how that would benefit them more. There's so many different languages in softwares that it really is that conversation to try to make it more personalized of the degree.
At this time.
Does that answer? I kind of went on a tangent.
Can I add on to that? My understanding in that field is that there would be a test at an interview anyway to.
It depends on their, so students graduating from this program are not necessarily going to become programmers. There are many different career paths they could take. They can be a salesperson, a technical sales expert that goes out with the sales team. They can be an analyst. They can be, because this provides a solid foundation in both assessing user needs as well as how those can be translated right down to the programming of it into a technology solution. It's in the traditional age group now, computer science is a really hot topic. And that's because it has so many different applications and is a solid career path for young people. For adults, it often seems like a daunting task to get through. And that's, I think, the moment is fairly low in this program for that reason. The reason that we use C++ as a foundation course is because all other languages are similar. You learn C++, it's not a stretch to learn any Java or any of the other ones. Anyway, I think it's also true that students tend to take fewer classes simply because they're spending more time on the ones they're taking. It also seems to be not unusual for students to stop out and come back in this program. Is that true?
Can you take a 15
week and then put a 7 on top of either
Sure.
one, so you can,
Sure.
yeah, so it's not that drawn out. But some students may do just a 15-week and then just another 15 weeks.
Yes.
Besides the speed to completion, what is the challenge of this program, other than it's hard?
It's hard.
So the enrollment's not very high because people are frightened of this?
I think that, well, adults have already established career paths for the most part.
Right.
Or inclinations anyway. And they tend to stick with it or something closely related. If they're interested in switching careers, they generally need to do it fairly quickly because they don't have a lot of time and money to stop out and focus on.
I was gonna say too, this is another one of those programs where the labor market has significant demand, but they're, relatively speaking, there just aren't as many people that are looking for this credential. And I was gonna say too, one thing that we occasionally see when we're doing some of our ads and social media for this and the web dev program, people will like write in the comments, you don't need a degree to do this. You just need, complete these courses at Khan Academy, or, I mean, there's also that, I think that.
Yeah, there's the on-demand education and, for these people that when they graduate, they've just started their education because the technology changes so quickly that they need to,
So that leads to a follow-up question. So, all right, so knowing that is reality, what do we do in response to that, for this program?
good question.
So my conversation with students is when they ask about, certain languages becoming obsolete, or I'm not using this right now, this is a waste of my time and money, I'm not using this language right now, is I focus on their goals, like what was their goals, and then I go also into conversation about technology is rapidly changing. We're providing that foundation and structure to change with it. So if you have an understanding of the rhythm of programming languages and all of the fun technology words Bob used, you can evolve with technology instead of just focusing on one specific language. If the language then changes, you might not be able to adapt with it without having that full structure and foundation with you. So that's how I respond to it in conversation. And then as a program as a whole, I feel that advisors and program directors work closely together to talk about internally where the degree is going, and I think that every year we have to go through curriculum committee to update our program along with what is going on. When I started, we got rid of certain mobile programming courses because they have been changing so rapidly we couldn't keep up with it, so it was a disservice to the students.
No,
And then
ultimately it was because students didn't sign up.
Or
We
that.
thought that mobile programming was going to be the hot topic and created a certificate in it and didn't materialize.
And it was 300 level, and we didn't have students numbers ready for that 300 level as well. Devil in the detail.
They opted not to take it. And we had believed that the certificate alone would be a standalone product of interest to people that were not in the degree program. It turned out not to be true because, for one, they could go to Khan Academy or wherever and get, and it's the programming is not that much different, really. I mean, the Android is pretty much totally written in Java. So if you know Java, it's not a stretch to learn the mobile libraries. And it's an ever-changing landscape, but what the program tries to do is to provide a foundation that will allow students to adapt quickly to new technology. And I think it does a good job of that. I mean, that's the computer science programs for grad students are doing the same thing, providing this foundation that make them agile and allow them to move quickly as the technology changes. that's the best service that we can do for technology students in general. Because as soon as you graduate in 4 years, your skills are obsolete, or many of them are. What you carry with you is an understanding of the theory and the overall way that technology operates and works, regardless of language. Languages don't mean anything because they change. Even old C++ has changed tremendously since it was first created. JavaScript, as an example, is doing stuff that we never thought it should be doing, but it is. So in order for the students to be able to quickly come up to speed with the changes, they need to be able to apply this foundation of knowledge that they've acquired so that they can adapt pretty much on the fly.
Does that answer your question, Albert? Okay.
So your choice of courses in like the BS and AS, do they mirror what's going on up on upper campus?
They're very similar.
So could you kind of jump in and out?
Oh yeah.
And do people do that?
We have a lot of students, particularly in the summertime, who take the C++ sequence and take Java because we offer more Java than they do. It doesn't exactly match the IEEE standard for computer science programs because it doesn't have physics, it doesn't have some of the other courses in it. But it's not a stretch from what they do on campus. They take our database courses. I'm not sure if we have CPS students taking campus-based courses in this area because I wouldn't be in contact with them.
We have some local students that will take on campus and online, but it's, in my opinion, rare for software development. And there's a lot of other layers that go into it. If they're vet, if they're true ed, things like that will determine if they can or cannot. But if a student wants to, we're open to the conversation, and it really just comes down to making sure all departments are on the same page and that the program director approves that the course will come in as a one-to-one match, so it will apply to their program. Mark?
I know when I was a little bit more actively involved in the program, that was a kind of a groundswell at the time that if you just wanted to be an extreme coder, then you could do all those on-demand courses and value of a bachelor's might not work for you. But if you were interested in managing people, then typically programmers needed to learn communication and management skills, and that was what the industry was looking for at that time.
Yeah, project management in particular, they stress the use of good project management.
Yeah, interpersonal communication, small group communication, all that stuff. Skills that need to develop.
You have 10 minutes. So I don't know what the next one is going to be, but.
It's shorter.
Good.
Okay, the next one is BS in Computer Information Systems. There are the competencies. The foundation courses are not a lot different. The difference between software development and CIS is CIS is a broad program. It doesn't focus just on software development. It focuses on a spectrum of technology, such as networking, software development, web development, and management information systems courses. And then they have also 12 credits of technical electives, but they can basically take any of the technology certificates that we offer, even CFDI or any of the other certificates as an area of specialization. They also have this option of mixed topic option. In other words, make one up. Tell us what you plan to do with this combination of courses.
So the combination of courses have to be technical courses 200 level or above. Side note.
Right. So the course format, the previous one, the format was specialized technology. Software development students basically get all of their software for free. We have Microsoft academic, I forget what the title is, but it's a candy store. I mean, they get basically any software that they want from Microsoft. More restrictions on Apple software, but it still is available at very low cost. Again, it's a mix of 15 and 7-week courses. This program has only 2, maybe 3 courses that are specialized for that program. The others are taken from existing programs. And it makes use of a 2-semester sequence of team projects, which I'll go back and talk about. I think of this program as a completer. A lot of students come in with technology, previous college experience in some technology field, and they want to bring that in and complete it in a generalized technology area, and have the ability to go deeper into an area of interest. Students, unlike software development where it's slow completion, this one, the students are looking for a rapid completion. The MIS sequence is where all of the parts come together, particularly in these 2 courses, Information System Design and Information System Development. And so in this course, another 15-week course, student teams work to go out to a company, analyze an existing system. Ben & Jerry's has been very receptive to this, and so we've had a lot of student teams going there. To analyze an existing system, describe how it works, recommend changes and improvements. In this course, the goal would be for students to come directly from that one into this, where they would build that system or design it in a high level of detail to bring back to their client.
So when you have people from all over the place, do they find it's hard to find a team to go to those places, or
they
is
don't
it
have
more
to go.
virtual?
It's virtual. They meet either with Skype or Google Hangouts, or that's up to them. They decide how they're going to use that. Often one of the team members is the representative at the company. So we've had companies all over the place that the tricky part is that students get out of sequence, so they don't take these back to back. So they worked on a different project here than they working here, and so you have to adapt to some degree. Alyssa,
Yes.
your 2 cents.
Well, I'll open the floor to any questions.
Do you find people going from software development to this, or it's really a choice they make up front?
It's usually a choice they make up front.
Believe it or not, the students who go into software development don't drop out. They don't. And they don't complain. They get right into it.
I could disagree with that. You're welcome.
Any other questions? I know it went really fast through that last one. As you can tell, it even paced this version.
Well, I'll chat about, just to wrap it all up, the resources we have for the students. So obviously the program director and myself are both available resources, and then the instructor is always the resource. We also have champ support that can help with any technical problems the students having with their computer or what we have, we're asking them to download. So that is a great resource we have. Smart Space is also a resource we have only during fall and spring. I'm currently working with Warren, who's the director of Smart Space, to try to beef that up, or to tofu that up for John. There's student on-campus tech tutors though, so that's one of the disconnects. We have adult students working with junior and senior on-campus students, so sometimes that is a disconnect for our students. The pros are they are available, so we have something to offer to our students. Smart Thinking is something we also have.
That's new.
Smart Thinking?
For programming students.
Oh, yes. So Smart Thinking just added on technical subjects. So they, about 3 weeks ago, just added JavaScripting, C++, Java support, things of that nature. It's brand new, so we're still testing it to see if that is still a good resource for our students. In the summer, there is no Smart Space, and there are discussions in process of how to better develop and strengthen our resources for tech students. The main challenge we have is, I would say, technical requirements that, depending on the operating system the student has. So we're trying to improve that as well as resources just to be there for the adult learner.
Yeah, they need a beefy machine, really for both programs.
What machine?
A high-end machine.
Like a newer machine.
Yeah.
A newer.
The Smart Space on campus.
Yes.
When students want to access that, are they doing that? You can access at a distance, or
Yes.
you really have to be there?
You don't have to be there. Right now, we only have it, I guess, marketed in Canvas for CMIT 135, which is that foundation course. If a student is struggling in a class, then we give them directions on how to get in contact with them at request, or when we offer it. So it's not out there as, because of limited tech tutors, because of limited budget, various reasons, and skills of the tech tutors at the time, because it varies on what juniors and seniors we have in there working.
It's very common for faculty members in these programs to have video conferences weekly with students, kind of office on it, or they share screens. Other questions? You can't go till the bell rings. All right, you can go early. Wake up back there. I know what to do.
Tell you I know more about.
That's different than like snoring stuff.
True, very true.